Imagine holding a coin so small, so ordinary, that most people wouldn't even bend down to pick it up from the sidewalk. Yet this tiny piece of metal could secretly be worth more than a brand new luxury car. That's the hidden power behind one of America's most surprising rare finds, the 1983 Roosevelt dime-era coin. And today, you're about to discover why this humble 10-cent piece has become one of the most hunted treasures among collectors, with shocking auction prices reaching from $55,500 all the way up to $165,200 for the right error. Yes, a coin worth just 10 cents printed in 1983 has changed people's lives. It all starts with a year that slipped under nearly everyone's radar. The economy was recovering, people were focused on politics, technology, and the rise of a new generation. But behind the scenes at the U.S. Mint, something unusual was happening to the Roosevelt dime. Thousands of dimes were minted flawlessly, as always. But a few slipped through with mistakes that not only went unnoticed, they became priceless. These errors weren't obvious to the average person, and for decades people spent them at gas stations, vending machines, corner stores, never imagining the fortune passing through their fingertips. Collectors say the 1983 dime is one of the most deceptive coins ever minted because the errors are subtle, sometimes invisible until the coin is examined under the right light or angle. And once you see it, the magic hits. Some of these errors are so rare that even seasoned collectors say they've only seen a handful in their entire careers. But what makes these coins even more mysterious is that each has a story. Some come from misaligned dies, others from weak strikes, missing details, or unexpected doubling in specific regions of the design. Every error turns a common dime into a whisper of history, a fingerprint left behind by a momentary flaw in precision machinery that as you look at the coin, you start to appreciate the details. The calm, dignified profile of President Roosevelt, engraved to honor his leadership and legacy. The torch, olive branch, and oak leaf on the reverse, symbols of unity, peace, and strength. These familiar elements make the dime feel ordinary. But with the 1983 error dimes, something feels different. Sometimes the lettering looks slightly off, or the rim isn't as sharp as it should be. In some cases, the strike is unusually weak on one side while the other side looks normal, a telltale sign of a rare minting mishap. And every time a collector uncovers one, they know immediately they've found something extraordinary. Stories began emerging in the collecting world about people discovering these rare pieces while sorting through old jars of change. One man reportedly found his 1983 dime error tucked away inside a forgotten drawer in his late grandfather's desk. Just a normal handful of coins that turned into an instant windfall. Auction houses started catching on, and soon the numbers were shocking everyone. Prices soared, and before long, that 10-cent coin was being bid up past $55,500, then $80,000, then even beyond $120,000. The rarest specimens, in pristine condition and showing perfect error patterns, crossed into the $165,200 range. That changed everything. Suddenly, everyone wanted to know, how could a coin most people never think twice about be worth a house? The excitement surrounding this coin only grew as more stories surfaced. A retired teacher who'd saved coins for decades found an error 1983 dime in a plastic bag that she said she almost threw out during spring cleaning. Today, that single coin is one of the highest-graded pieces ever discovered. Another collector who specialized in Roosevelt dimes spent nearly 20 years searching before finally landing an error 1983 dime at a small estate sale, tucked inside a bowl of nickels and quarters. He called it the greatest discovery of his lifetime. What makes this coin such a phenomenon is that its errors weren't intentional. They were accidents, purely random, impossible to reproduce, and tied to a specific moment in minting history. Once those dies were replaced or the machinery recalibrated, the opportunity to create another one of these rare pieces vanished forever. That's why collectors pay so much. They're not just buying a coin, they're buying a piece of an unrepeatable event. But if you're watching this right now, the most exciting part might be this. These coins are still out there. Yes, after more than 40 years, people still find them in circulation. Maybe in a jar of old coins. Maybe in a thrift store donation box. Maybe in a forgotten change pouch in a winter coat. As long as these dimes keep moving through the world, the next lucky person could be anyone. Think about that. You could walk into a grocery store with a few coins in your pocket, and one of them might hold a secret worth thousands. You could empty a piggy bank your kids haven't touched in years and realize you're holding a treasure. You could go through a handful of change after buying a morning coffee and accidentally come face to face with a piece of American minting history. Collectors emphasize that condition plays a big role. A coin with clear error details, minimal wear, and sharp surfaces is worth dramatically more than one that's been heavily circulated. That's why proper storage matters. Coin flips, airtight capsules, or simply keeping it dry and protected can make all the difference in value. But even a circulated piece can bring life-changing money if the error is strong enough. So the next time you come across a 1983 Roosevelt dime, don't dismiss it. Don't drop it into a tip jar without a second look. Don't toss it into the car cup holder or laundry room change bowl. Look closely. Study the details. You could be holding one of the most unexpected treasures the U.S. Mint has ever produced. Because behind that tiny silver-colored coin, behind the familiar face of Franklin Roosevelt, behind the torch and branches on the back, there could be a story worth more than you ever imagined. A story written by a fleeting machine error, preserved in metal, passed through countless hands, waiting for someone with the right eye to notice it. And who knows, maybe that someone is you. So check your change. Check your drawers. Check every dime that crosses your path. Because the next 1983 error dime could turn your ordinary day into an extraordinary moment, and a simple 10-cent coin into a fortune. The story of the 2003 U.S. Roosevelt dime error coin is one that begins quietly, almost invisibly, the way many great numismatic discoveries do. Most people pass by dimes without ever thinking twice about them. They are so small, so common, so deeply embedded in everyday life that the idea of one being worth more than $100,000 seems almost unbelievable. Yet that is exactly what has happened with a handful of error dimes from 2003, coins that slipped through the minting process unseen, coins that now carry values ranging anywhere from $38,750 to an incredible $128,500 depending on the nature of the error and the condition in which the coin has been preserved. The beauty of these discoveries is that they often begin with someone simply looking more closely than the average person ever would. The Roosevelt dime has been a staple of U.S. currency since 1946, a tribute to President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. While the design has remained consistent for decades, the minting process behind it has evolved dramatically. By the time 2003 arrived, the U.S. Mint was producing billions of coins annually across multiple facilities. High-speed presses, automated planchet feeders, and advanced mechanical systems were meant to make errors less likely. But even in the midst of modern technology, mistakes still happened. And when they did, they created coins that collectors now consider treasures. One of the most dramatic categories of errors from 2003 includes off-metal strikes, where a dime is struck on a planchet intended for another denomination. A dime struck on a copper penny planchet or even a blank meant for a foreign coin becomes instantly valuable. These pieces weigh differently, appear in unusual colors, and offer a striking visual contrast that collectors immediately recognize. When authenticated and certified in high grade, these errors have been known to command astonishing prices. The very idea that such a small coin, barely 10 cents, could transform into a five-figure prize captures the imagination of everyone who hears the story. Another remarkable type of error involves off-center strikes. These occur when the planchet is improperly seated in the coining chamber, resulting in part of the design missing entirely. The more dramatic the off-center shift, the more visually appealing and desirable the coin becomes. Collectors love errors that reveal the raw mechanics behind the minting process, coins that show precisely where things went wrong. In the right condition, these pieces can sell for tens of thousands, and the emotional excitement of uncovering such an error is something collectors describe like uncovering a secret no one else noticed. Double dies are another class of 2003 dime errors that attract enormous attention. A doubled image on the date, lettering, or Roosevelt's portrait can turn a common dime into something special. Even the slightest doubling can raise eyebrows, but when the doubling is bold and visible to the naked eye, the value skyrockets. A dramatic double-die coin discovered in circulation can shock collectors because of how rare such mistakes have become in more recent decades. The mint's technology is better now than ever before, making these accidents even more valuable because they represent something that should not have happened. The most mysterious and coveted errors involve missing clad layers. Modern dimes are composed of a copper core sandwiched between two layers of copper-nickel alloy, giving them their familiar silver appearance. But when one of these outer layers is missing, the coin takes on a reddish copper tone, resembling a penny at first glance. To a trained eye, however, the size, weight, and texture immediately reveal the truth. Missing clad layer errors are stunning to look at, almost surreal, like a dime that has been partially peeled open to show its inner workings. These mistakes captivate collectors not only because of their rarity, but because they allow a glimpse into the structure of the coin itself. High-grade examples of these errors from 2003 have entered the market with impressive price tags that shock even seasoned collectors. The year 2003 also saw a few multi-strike error dimes, coins that were struck 2 or more times by the press, creating overlapping images, distorted lettering, and dramatic visual chaos. These pieces feel like works of abstract art created unintentionally by the mint machinery. They stand out instantly, and when such a coin appears for sale, collectors compete fiercely because each multi-strike error is unique. No two look exactly the same, and that individuality gives them remarkable appeal. But what truly makes the 2003 Roosevelt dime error story fascinating is the way these coins continue to appear unexpectedly. Unlike extremely old coins that are discovered in attics or antique collections, modern error coins often show up in places people least expect. Change from a grocery store, coins from a vending machine, or pocket change a person empties out at the end of the day. The idea that someone might unknowingly carry around a dime worth $38,750 or even up to $128,500 creates a sense of excitement that collectors love to share with the world. Many of the stories behind these discoveries begin the same way. Someone notices something odd. A different color, a strange weight, an off-center design, or a distorted image. That moment of curiosity is what leads people down the path of discovery. One collector shared that he found a 2003 dime with a missing clad layer simply because it looked too coppery compared to the others in his pocket. He almost dismissed it until he remembered reading about errors. After sending it for certification, he was stunned to learn that the coin was worth tens of thousands of dollars. What he once thought was an odd-looking dime became a life-changing moment. Another collector discovered a 2003 off-metal strike while searching through rolls of dimes from the bank. Within minutes, he spotted a coin with a strange color tone and slightly reduced diameter. His heart jumped as he realized what he might have found. After weighing it and sending it to a grading service, the coin was authenticated as a dime struck on a foreign planchet. It later sold for a price he never imagined a dime could bring. Stories like this fuel the passion in the numismatic community and inspire new collectors to pay closer attention. What is most surprising to many people is how little it takes for one of these errors to slip through the system. Even with modern technology, the mint still deals with massive pressure to produce billions of coins each year. Machines jam, planchets get mixed, dies shift, and human oversight does not catch everything. The minting process is fast, loud, and intense, and within that chaos, mistakes escape unnoticed. That tiny window of error is what allows these extraordinary coins to exist, and collectors appreciate how rare those windows truly are. As interest in error coins continues to rise, collectors encourage people to examine their change more closely. The weight, the color, the edges, and even the sound of a coin can reveal clues. A missing clad layer dime, for example, will often weigh slightly less than a normal one. An off-metal strike will look and feel different due to its unusual composition. Errors that involve misaligned dies or off-center strikes will be visible even without magnification. And dramatic double dies can practically jump out at you once you know what to look for. The 2003 Roosevelt dime error coins represent a perfect blend of modern minting history, mechanical unpredictability, and human curiosity. These coins remind us that value is not determined by denomination but by rarity, circumstance, and the stories behind the mistakes. A dime worth 10 cents can become something priceless when it carries a flaw that was never meant to leave the mint. For collectors, that transformation is magical. As more people become aware of these rare 2003 error dimes, the excitement spreads. The possibility that a person might already own one without knowing is thrilling. Some of the most valuable coins in existence have been found by complete beginners, people who simply noticed something different and decided to investigate. That is the beauty of numismatics. Anyone, anywhere, at any time, can make a discovery that shocks the collecting world. The next time you hold a dime minted in 2003, take a moment to look at it carefully. Study its surface, color, alignment, and overall feel. Because within this ordinary little coin lies the potential for something extraordinary. It may look like any other dime, but if it contains one of those rare minting mistakes, it could be worth far more than anyone would expect. And the idea that something so small, so simple, and so common could turn into a treasure valued between $38,750 and $128,500 is what keeps collectors searching, hoping, and believing that the next incredible find is out there waiting to be discovered. The 1988 Roosevelt dime is one of those coins that most people pass around dozens of times in their lifetime without giving it a single thought. It jingles in pockets, disappears into car cup holders, hides in grocery store change, and gets tossed into drawers with the rest of the small change that never feels important enough to look at. Yet within that ordinary little coin lies the possibility of something extraordinary. Few people realize that a rare error version of the 1988 Roosevelt dime has shocked collectors with values ranging from $50,500 all the way up to $140,500. And the most astonishing part is that these rare pieces didn't come from some special minting program or commemorative release. They came straight from the everyday coins meant for circulation, coins that should have been identical to the rest but weren't, because something unexpected happened at the mint that transformed a few of them into numismatic treasures. When you think about how many dimes the United States Mint produces each year, it's easy to understand why most people assume that nothing rare ever slips through the cracks. Millions upon millions of coins roll out of high-speed presses, struck with precision and consistency, designed to be nearly indistinguishable from one another. But the truth is that no system is flawless. Even with modern machinery and strict quality control, mistakes still happen. And when they do, the results can be astonishing. The 1988 Roosevelt dime, in its rare error forms, became one of the most sought-after small-denomination coins from that era. These aren't the kinds of mistakes that are immediately obvious to the average person. Some are subtle, requiring a sharp eye and knowledge of minting to identify. Others are bold, dramatic errors that make even casual observers pause and wonder what went wrong. And in the world of coin collecting, anything that breaks from the norm, whether it's a double die, an off-center strike, a wrong planchet, or a major misalignment, becomes a point of intense fascination. Imagine someone sorting through a pile of loose change, maybe just wanting to roll some coins or clear out a drawer. They spot a dime that looks slightly different. Maybe the rim seems wider on one side, or the lettering looks doubled, or the design appears shifted. They pick it up, squint at it under a lamp, and slowly realize they're not holding a dime worth 10 cents. They're holding something that could reach values starting around $50,500 and climbing into the incredible range of $140,500. That's when curiosity turns into excitement, and excitement turns into disbelief. Because the idea that a simple 10-cent piece could carry such value feels almost impossible. Yet that's exactly what makes error coins like the 1988 Roosevelt dime so captivating. This particular year saw some fascinating minting anomalies. Some of the most valuable examples involve dramatic off-center strikes, where the design lands so far from its intended position that part of the coin's blank surface becomes visible. Others involve double die obverse errors, where Roosevelt's profile or the lettering appears doubled or shadowed due to issues with the die preparation. There have even been examples of wrong planchet errors, where the dime was accidentally struck on a planchet meant for another denomination. That kind of mistake is incredibly rare and instantly skyrockets the coin's value because it represents a significant breakdown in minting accuracy. But even lesser-known or more subtle errors can still generate significant attention. The key is rarity combined with visual impact. Collectors want coins that stand out, coins that tell a story about something unusual happening behind the scenes. What makes the 1988 dime particularly interesting is that it doesn't belong to an era known for massive minting mistakes. By this time, the U.S. Mint had advanced machinery and detailed inspection procedures in place. So when an error does slip through, it raises questions. Was the die slightly misaligned? Did the press malfunction during a specific run? Did a planchet jam cause a cascading error in the strike? Each rare error coin becomes like a clue, evidence of a moment when the system hiccuped. And because these errors often didn't appear in large numbers, every surviving example becomes incredibly valuable, especially when authenticated and confirmed by experts. Think about how these coins might have traveled. A mint worker loads planchets into the hopper. Presses strike thousands of coins per minute. Quality control checks batches, but checks are never perfect. A small number of flawed dimes slip through, unnoticed, mixed into bags of thousands. They're shipped to Federal Reserve banks, then to commercial banks. They land in cash drawers, ATMs, and store tills. They get exchanged, spent, and circulated for years before anyone notices something special about them. By the time a collector or enthusiast finally discovers one, the coin might have passed through hundreds of hands. But the error, the very thing that makes it special, remains frozen in time. Those who are lucky enough to find one often describe the moment as surreal. They realize that the little coin they were casually examining carries a story of its own. A story of rarity, mistake, and hidden value. And once authenticated, the numbers become real. The $50,500 valuation isn't a fantasy. It's the starting point for some of the verified auction results tied to the rarest error versions of this coin. And in the most exceptional cases, the value climbs toward that breathtaking $140,500 mark, especially for coins in high grade with dramatic error features. Collectors are drawn to error coins because they represent something unique. They aren't mass-produced. They aren't planned or replicated. Each one is a one-of-a-kind accident, something that wasn't supposed to happen yet did. And that sense of unpredictability fuels fascination. The 1988 dimes error varieties have found their place among the most exciting modern small-denomination coins. Blogs, auction houses, and numismatic forums all feature stories from people asking if their dime might be valuable, trying to compare features, angles, and markings. Some hope they've hit the jackpot. Others are simply curious. But the fact that so many people continue to search for these coins shows how much impact the error versions have had on the collecting world. One of the reasons the dime is so easy to overlook is its size. It's small, extremely small compared to other denominations. That makes detailed error features harder to spot, which only adds to the mystery. Not everyone notices doubling or misalignment immediately. But those who do, those with the patience to study the coin under magnification or good lighting, may spot the telltale signs that separate an ordinary dime from a hidden treasure. A slight distortion in Roosevelt's eye, a doubling in the date, a shift in the lettering, a crescent-shaped blank area created by an off-center strike. These tiny characteristics are exactly what experts and collectors look for, and they're what drive the value so dramatically higher. The most passionate collectors see error coins not just as collectibles, but as pieces of history, little metal records of moments when the mint's flawless rhythm faltered. And the 1988 Roosevelt dime represents one of those special moments. When examples of these error coins appear at auctions, they rarely stay unnoticed. Bidding can escalate quickly as collectors recognize how rare the opportunity is. You never know when another example might surface. And because these errors were never intentionally produced, the number of surviving pieces is completely unknown. That mystery further fuels interest, because there's always the chance that only a handful exist in the world. Now imagine the possibility that someone watching this might actually own one of these rare pieces without realizing it. Could be sitting in a change jar, a dresser drawer, or a coin purse. The next person who takes a closer look at their dimes might find something that completely changes their perspective on coin collecting. The idea that a coin meant to be worth 10 cents could instead carry a value between $50,500 and $140,500 is something that sparks curiosity in both new and experienced collectors. And that curiosity leads people to dig deeper, learn more, and start paying closer attention to the coins they handle every day. The story of the 1988 Roosevelt dime error coin is a reminder of how the smallest objects can hold the biggest surprises. You don't need a rare gold coin or a centuries-old artifact to uncover something valuable. Sometimes all it takes is a dime, one that looks just a little different, and a willingness to take a closer look. That's why collectors never underestimate the power of everyday currency. They know that treasure doesn't always come in the form of something shiny and obvious. In the world of coins, rarity often hides in plain sight.